and he was the master of Lacan, and a very prominent psychiatrist. I think when he died, Kessel, the writer, said there were two prominent specialists of the psyche, Freud on one side and him, Clérambault, on the other. But the funny thing is that he's been almost forgotten, even here in France. But of course, what remains is the syndrome of Clérambault, which is based on this obsession and this conviction to be loved by somebody else. And from my point of view, it's the obsession that was really worth exploring in a very deep psychological way. I don't know whether that is the departure point of your level.
Yes, I mean, it's the unbreakable nature of this mental prisoner, too. I read of a case, for example, a very typical case. A woman thought that the priest loved her and was phoning her all the time, but he had a special way. The phone didn't ring. She was just aware that at that moment he was now sending her messages through the phone. She didn't have to pick it up even. She just knew. So she then submitted to a regime of 5 milligrams of pimozide and what they call, it's a sinister term, gently challenging therapy. And it was fairly successful because she was then asked again, did she still think the priest was in love with her? And she said, I think he's getting over it. So she never had to refer back to herself.
Yeah. And remember the initial case that Clérambault described, this French woman who was a bourgeois, wealthy woman, and she thought that the King of England was totally in love with her.
Yes.
So she used to spend a lot of time
outside
the palace of Buckingham, and each time she would see a curtain move, she was absolutely convinced that that was a sign from the king, a signal.
Yeah.
A signal.
So in that respect, it shares something with a lot of delusional states, where the arrangement of clouds or leaves on the ground or the significance of someone playing a certain song sends such a powerful message.
Yes.
And yet it sort of deserves its title, its special status, I think, in erotomania, because it's so close to our shared experience of love, when you can think of nothing else. You think maybe that glance is significant when it's not. You think that you're getting somewhere when you're not. And so it is very much deserving, I think, of revival, to Clérambault's syndrome.
But when you researched it, and you met, just like me, many scientists and neuroscientists, and they told me, I don't know whether it's what they told you too, that it was close to obsessive-compulsive syndrome, and that it's the way our obsession works inside our brain is exactly the same as when someone, for example, think, oh, I must wash my hands, or I must close this door, I must close this door, and it goes like this, round and round and round, and it can't get off track. And the very fascinating thing about it, and I think for the novelist, this is really exciting, is that the obsession of the patient becomes the obsession of the person who is being stalked.
So they impose
their folly on you.
Yes. Well, for me, it offers an insight into the nature of, or partly something shared. I mean, at some point or other, we use words like preoccupied, obsessed by, not only in love, but sometimes it works, but how these things can exist on a scale, on a spectrum. Also, it's a form of mental imprisonment which is so immune to logic that it builds its own reality, it makes its own stories, it provides its own logic. You quote from the Kafka Diaries, and I think brilliantly, if I'd thought of that or seen it, I would have snatched it for myself. The line is, a cage went in search of a bird. That really does catch something of the quality. In other words, someone liable to have de Clerambault's will sooner or later find someone. It hardly matters who to obsess about, go round and round.
Maybe it's because of the fact that I've been brought up in a very rational country, the country of Descartes, with this stupid idea that we make decisions according to our free will, and we know what we are doing, and full consciousness, etc., etc. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, there are so many other ways of looking at our behaviors and emotions, etc. So the minute you start to talk with a neuroscientist, then it becomes fascinating, because the neuronal life and the hormones, and they become characters.
Yes.
And I wanted them to be in the novel, to show that our free will was in fact an extraordinary small territory.
An illusion.
An illusion, exactly.
We hardly know ourselves. Most of the time we don't know why we do what we do. I don't believe in the structured storytelling unconscious of Freud, but I'm well aware that our consciousness is a tiny slice of what's going on in our minds, and the command to know thyself, I think, is a biological impossibility. But we need the illusion of free will, because we have to make people responsible for their choices.